What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are all doing well. So as you guys just saw, no palm trees, no humidity, basically a whole bunch of nothing up here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're just up here for a few days, but luckily for you guys, we can teleport back to Florida in around 20 seconds. Today we are playing with Kyle Fischl, fellow poker vlogger, poker player, cool dude, and we're mixing it up at the 2-5 tables at the Seminole Casino Coconut Creek. So you guys will definitely enjoy this video, and this will not be the last time you see Kyle, as me, him, and a bunch of other cool, familiar people are hitting up a location that you guys will be excited to see. So yeah, definitely look out for those videos. But as for today, we're just down in the cool state of South Florida. So hope you guys enjoy the video. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and let's get in there, mix it up, and hopefully book a win, because as you guys saw in the last video, yeah, June was not it. Yeah, so wish me the best. Let's get in there. Alright guys, we buy in for $1,000, which is the max of the 2-5 level at Coconut Creek, and the first game we get involved in is Ace-9 offsuit on the button. It folds to me, and any ace is a fine open, I think, on the button, so I'm going to bump it up to $15, and it looks like the blinds do not believe me. They think I have a weak hand because both of them tag along. So we're headed 3 ways to a flop in position with a pretty marginal hand, which does come ace high. There is a potential flush on board, but I think any better aces would most likely be re-raising me pre-flop, so I feel pretty confident to put in a c-bet of 2/3 pot, so I threw out $30, and we do see a call from the small blind. The big blind gets out of the way, so now we're going heads up to a turn, which looks great. The turn's another ace. This is also a good card because now any 10 is probably going to feel a little bit more inclined to tag along, because the likelihood of me having an ace is a bit thinner, but little do they know we actually have 3 of them. So all factors included, I think I do want to be sizing up a little bit on this turn, so I bet out $70 hoping for a call, but unfortunately the small blind thinks better of the situation and lets his cards go. Happy to take down the first pot of the night with a pretty marginal hand. The next game we looked at is King-Queen off in the hijack position. Low Jack opens up the action to $20, and action is now on me. King-Queen, I want to be narrowing out the field and not giving the players behind me a good price, so I'm going to try to play this hand in position, so I 3-bet to $65. The plan does look like it's working as it folds back around to the low jack, and he does make the call. So we get to play this hand in position, going heads up to a flop, which comes down ace high with 2 spades on board. All things considered, a pretty good flop for our range, but we do have some equity maybe with a backdoor flush. I throw in a c-bet of $50. In hindsight, I think I want to go a little bit larger because this price is just too good for any middling pocket pairs to continue, and sure enough, he does in fact make the call. So with that small bet, we don't really know where we are in the hand, but the turn does come a 10 of clubs, so now there's 2 flush draws on board, and we do have a gut shot to Broadway. Action checks to me as I figured, and this time I definitely made a mistake by checking back. I think we should be betting this turn majority of the time, number 1, to try to realize where we are in the hand, but number 2, we also did pick up some more equity. But regardless, I do check it to try to realize some equity on the river, which is realized a little bit when it comes a queen. So now we definitely do have some showdown value, and he does check into me once again. Here I made another mistake, I believe, because I don't think he's going to be checking an ace to me twice, so I think I could go for some thin value targeting any middling pairs, but I do in fact check it back, and we do beat pocket jacks. So this hand is just a good lesson to, kind of put your players on a range, which I initially did with a middling pair, and with that being said, I probably left out maybe a little bit of value there on the river. It doesn't take us too long to get King-Queen once again, but this time it is the suited variety. There's a button straddle, and the small blind raises it to $30. I'm in the under the gun position, and I definitely want to be narrowing out the field after we do see a call from the big blind as well, so I'm going to 3-bet it to 125, trying to play this hand in position. To my surprise though, the button, the initial straddler, he cold calls the $125 bet, so his range is definitely pretty narrow, and this does price in the small blind as she continues as well. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, which comes 10-6-6 rainbow. All things considered, I think this is a pretty good board for my perceived range, as I could add all the overpairs. What's a little bit odd about this hand is the button cold calling, so I think he almost always has a hand like 7s through jacks, and he's probably not going to be folding on this board all that often, but regardless, I think king high is not ahead at the moment, so I threw out $200, hoping for folds obviously, but that does not happen as the button calls, and once again, the small blind I guess is priced in as she decides to tag along as well. So at this point, I'm absolutely done with the hand, unless we maybe pick up some sort of equity, but we do not. The turn is another 10. I think the likelihood of one of these players maybe having a 10 is pretty high, so when action checks to me, I essentially just give up and check it, and the button does throw out a bet that is too much for me to call. The small blind goes all in for way too much, and we have a slam dunk fold. The button does go into the tank, but eventually calls, so we get to see what these players have. The river's a brick, and the small blind quickly tables ace-10 off to scoop the pot. So our read on the situation was right, playing this hand in position, but like said prior, by the button calling, ace-10 off, I guess got a decent price to peel a flop, and she absolutely crushed it. The moment you guys have all been waiting for, the man himself gets a table change, and I'm looking forward to potentially taking some of his dollars. Alright guys, real quick, I need you guys to go check out Rad Poker on the App Store. What Rad Poker is, it's a fast-paced heads-up no-limit app that strengthens your heads-up play in the casino and then online as well. You only have 6 seconds to act, so your decision-making gets real quick, real sharp, real fast, and it's a lot of fun. The app's new, has a lot of new cool stuff coming in the future, so be sure to check them out. And if you're up against me in a game, send me a message on Instagram or YouTube. You can download it on the App Store or click the link in the bio, and I'm looking forward to running with a bunch of you guys on the app. Alright y'all, let's get on with the next one. The first hand we get with Kyle on the table is pocket eights. We are under the gun and there's a button straddle. The big blind calls and we decide to try to narrow out the field and raise it up to $40. Well, the $40 bet doesn't get too far as the hijack makes the call, and surprisingly the initial limper, the big blind, does get out of the way. Overall, this is a pretty good situation as we both are sitting around $1,000 deep, so around 200 big blinds, meaning that if we hit an 8, the implied odds are pretty good. So we're off to see a flop, which does not come in 8, but it does look pretty good. The flop comes down queen, queen, deuce, rainbow. So on boards like these, we're either well ahead or well behind. This guy has been pretty active at the table, and I think he'll be taking a lot of stabs with air. So I go ahead and check it over to him, which I think a bet here is probably ideal, but unfortunately he does check it back. The turn comes another deuce, which is actually a pretty good card. This player would definitely be betting a deuce on the flop and certainly a queen, so I throw out a bet of $40 to try to target any ace highs, maybe some potential weaker pairs. So I bet out $40, and to my surprise, he does not think for about 4 seconds and raises to $100. So I'm almost certain we have the best hand, and I think he'll be barreling on a lot of rivers. So I like to just make the call, and we're off to see a river, which is an interesting card. The river's another queen. So now there's a full house on the board, but we have a better full house. We have queens full of 8s, while the board has queens full of deuces. I end up checking it to him, which I think I actually like a lead better because I don't think this player is going to be folding to a perceived chop quite often. Unfortunately, he does check it back, and we table the 8s, and we are good as he shows ace-8 of spades. So our read on the turn was correct, but I think we definitely missed out value on the river. So far, things are going our way, but we're definitely not playing our best. I guess rather be lucky than good. In this next hand, we look down at one of my favorite hands in Texas Hold'em. We look down at 2 10s, and what makes it even better is we are on the button. So we have position on the whole table. There's a under the gun straddle, and I raise it up to $75 after 3 players decide to make the call. Out of the 3 players, there's only one defender, the low jack, who decides to button the additional $65. So we're off to see a flop, heads up in position, which comes down 8-7-4 with 2 clubs. So this is probably one of the best boards we could have asked for with pocket 10s. The low jack does check into me, and this is a board that I'd be betting with almost 100% frequency, so why not do it with a strong hand like 10s as well? So I bet out $60, and the low jack doesn't think for too long and does make the call. I think his range still is pretty wide after sizing down on the flop. So we're off to see a turn, which is a 9 of hearts. So our hand is now improved slightly as we are open-ended, and we also have an overpair, so one of the best turns we could have asked for. Action does check to me once again, and this time I want to size up slightly, so I bet 2/3 pot to the tune of $225, but it looks like this price might have been a bit steep as he does in fact make the fold. So happy to take down a decent pot with a pretty good hand. Running pretty well in the session so far. Hopefully we can continue the run good with Queen Jack and the low jack. I open up the action to $20, which may be a bit loose, and it looks like that might be the case as the button 3-bets me to $60. This is the guy I got involved in last hand, and he can get a bit out of line at times and overplay maybe some hands. So with that being said, I think I don't want to be flat calling here, so I think either folding or putting in that 4-bet is really the only 2 options. Well, as another vlogger does say, folding is a bit boring, so let's put in that 4-bet. but I think I do need to be sizing up because I don't want to give this player a good price. The price I do elect on is $200, so 2 Benjamins to continue, and as you guys see in the video, he snaps it off, so that's obviously not ideal. Well, I did have plans to barrel on any flop for the most part, and this flop is no exception as it comes down with 2 8s and a 3, so we have absolutely nothing besides 2 overs and a potential backdoor straight. Action starts with me, and I had plans to be barreling this flop, so I throw out a c-bet of $130. On a flop like this, I don't think sizing up or down will really make that big of a difference, because I think this player will continue with any pairs, and if he doesn't have much, he'll fold regardless. So $130 is the price I lay for him. He goes into the tank, obviously hoping for a fold, and it looks like he does agree that a fold is the best play, so he lets his cards go. So happy to take down a flop with maybe a bit of a exploitive play, but yeah, regardless, happy to see the chips come my way.
A 9 was coming, trust me. I've heard he said it's super fun. Get that audio in there.
First hand with the fish himself, Kyle Fischl is going underway now. We look down at 2 7s, and we open up the action to $20 on the low jack. Kyle decides to make the call from the cutoff, and action does fold back around, so we're going heads up to a flop, just me and Kyle, which comes down jack 7-6. Yeah, flopping middle set is about as good as it can get. All things considered, this board's definitely going to favor his range more than mine. I really shouldn't connect with this far that often, but we do have a set, and I want to be putting in some money. I don't think I need to size up too large, so I bet out $20, and Kyle agrees that this is a good price. Hoping to see a clean turn, which is a 8. So all things considered, another really good card. I don't think Kyle would ever have 9-10 here just because he's not that deep, and Kyle's a competent player, so he's not going to be calling with gut shots. I think more likely than not, he might have a hand such as Queen Jack suited, maybe Jack 10 suited. If he does have a 9 and picked up more equity, I don't think he's going to be folding on this turn ever, so I size up larger to $75. Kyle doesn't think for too long, and he does make the call once again, so happy to see that one, and we're off to a river, which is probably the best card in the deck. The river is another jack. So if he has a jack in his hand, he's most likely not folding to a river bet. So now let's see question what sizing I want to choose. Kyle has around $500 behind, so I think if I shove, he will maybe find a fold with some marginal jacks such as Jack 10, Jack Queen. So I elect on a sizing of $250. At the time, I thought Kyle elected on a call, but he actually went all in, and I did not know. So I happily announced that I have him, but I do not have him, as he turned a better set with pocket 8s. Obviously, knowing his exact holding, I know that he would have went all in, so yeah, this is just a cooler. So I pay off the additional $250, and Kyle definitely gets the best of us on this hand, so a bit unlucky, but what can you do? Sometimes you run good, sometimes you run bad. So after being up around $400, we're now stuck around $200. I had him for $200 when we look down at King 9 of spades in the small blind. There's a button straddle, and this is about the widest open I have ever made. I open up the action to $30. Maybe a little bit of tilt is getting to me, and there is a few calls as the cutoff and the button do tag along as well. So we're off to see a flop, which is pretty decent for our exact holding. It comes down 10-7-5 with 1 spade. So we have an overcard and a bunch of backdoor draws. I'm not going to be ahead with king high all that often at the moment, so I like to bet out $40. The cutoff folds and the button does make a call. So we're off to a turn, heads up, hoping to pick up something, which we do get a little bit of something. We get a deuce of spades, so now our king high does have a decent amount of equity as we're drawing to a very strong hand. I definitely want to be applying the pressure because king high, once again, is definitely not good at the moment. So I threw out a bet of $150. The button doesn't think for too long, and he does make the call once again. So at this point, we're praying to pick up some sort of equity. A spade would be nice, maybe a king will even suffice. But I will definitely take the nuts, as the river is a ace of spades. Obviously we have the nuts now, but this is a bit of an interesting river. So the ace is good for my perceived opening range, and if he has a 10, it's going to be hard for him to call a bet. But at the same time, if he has a hand like ace 10, he's going to be calling a large bet regardless. And if he has a ace of hearts, a busted flush draw that rivered a top pair, I'd imagine he'd be calling a pretty large bet himself. So backing ourselves into a flush, it is extremely disguised. So if he doesn't have anything, I don't think he's going to be calling a bet regardless. And if he has something, I think I want to be just trying to get the max. So I jam all in for a pretty massive overbet of $675. Well, I didn't really even have time to process that the button snapped this bet off in around 2 seconds. So I proudly, confidently just table the nuts, and we scoop a massive pot with an extremely lucky run out. He obviously had a made hand. That's poker. Kyle got lucky on us in the previous hand. We got lucky on this hand. And luckily for us, we did decide to go for the max on the river, and we got paid massively. So now we are well into the black with around $1,850 in our chip stack. In this last hand of the session, we have 2 red aces. I put my phone away because we literally were about to leave in 2 hands, but imagine leaving on aces. That would be absurd. So you love to see a straddle pot and looking down at 2 aces. The under the gun does straddle, and the +1 does decide to raise it up to $30. So loving life at the moment. It gets even better as the low jack decides to call the $30 bet. Action's on me, and the player in the low jack, this is the player that I just stacked, so I think I want to be sizing up and hopefully getting him out of line. I size up to $175, and the +1 player calls the $175. Action's now on the low jack player, who perceives to be tilted, in which it looks like he is. He throws in a 4-bet to the tune of $500, leaving himself with 1,000 behind. Trying to keep my composure in my seat, but I think there is really only one move to be made at this point. I go all in for $1,000 effective. The +1 player calls, as I figured she would, as she's getting a decent price, and the low jack looks frustrated, but he's also getting a decent price and puts in 5 more black chips. So we're going 3 ways to a flop with aces in a massive pot. Can we hold? And the players announce that they think the aces are going to win, which we love to hear. So we go ahead and scoop an absolutely massive pot. We scoop a $2,350 pot to end the night. Luckily, I stayed for around 3 more hands, and it sure enough paid off quite substantially. Poker is a pretty easy game when you pick up aces and get it all in pre-flop. If you do that over the course of your poker career, you certainly will become victorious in the end. But in all seriousness, happy to take down a massive pot with a lot of run good at the end of the session. After a pretty miserable month of June, it's always good to finally get on the right track of things and have the cards play out as they should. Now it's time to cash out and talk to the boys. All right, guys, we just finished up the session with the 2 boys right here.
What's up?
You guys probably are aware of this guy right here.
Yep.
Introduce yourself once again.
Kyle Fischl, old Fischl Poker.
This is going to be a new face in the online entertainment YouTube space. Introduce yourself.
I don't even know my YouTube name yet, but
YouTube name is not.
But it'll probably be something like the Fish King. I don't know. We'll see.
Regardless, in the near future, he may or may not have it out by the time I post this video. But if he does, I'll tag it in the link below. I'll put it somewhere. But
all of us at the same table. It was a fun session. Most of us were profitable. Some of us were not.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Yeah, but overall, it was a pretty good session. Unfortunately, I ran into it with the man right here, but luckily we got apparently sucked out, or got a bit lucky with the aces all in pre at the end. And this man right here is a maniac. He values top pair, mediocre kicker, overbets pot, and gets paid off somehow. Pretty good session, and happy to see the man travel down here and hop into a video. Overall, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope everything was entertaining, and yeah, I'll put his channel in the link in the bio, and hopefully this man can get on board and get productive and
we'll see.
And get the channel going in the meantime. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see everyone in the next video in the near future. Or actually, there should be a part 2, because as of right now, we're planning on coming tomorrow as well. But
we will. It's gonna be blood tomorrow.
It's gonna be yeah,
more sets over sets.
Yeah, boat over boat.
Boat over boat. Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good session, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Happy to get other fellow vloggers in here, so hope you guys enjoyed. All right, see you, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And I actually forgot. So we were in the game for $1,550, and we were at the game for $3,110. So y'all do the math. Yeah, we booked a profit. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.